Good morning, beautiful people. It is Monday, June 15th, 2020. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. The AFL was on all weekend. We have updates from down under on who's undefeated, who took a loss, who's going to get hot, who's going to win it all, and who we are fans of. I have a little bit of a heads up for you. For me, it's Collingwood. While Diggs is a diehard fan of
Geelong.
The Geelong Cats. The AFL might have to carry us into the NFL. All these sports that we thought there was potentially going to be a season for seems like it's potentially falling in. Now, aside from the NHL, which is zeroing in not only on Las Vegas as one of their hub cities, but either Toronto or Columbus, depending on if Canada will loosen up the 14-day mandatory quarantine for everybody who steps foot into the town of Canada. If that gets loosened up a little bit, I believe Toronto will be the other hub city because they want Canada to be a part of this thing because hockey is Canada's game. Well, curling, they say, is, but you get it. So it's either going to be Toronto or Columbus by all accounts. That's what at NHL Rumors Daily has been saying, and the NRD bombs have been real things. So Las Vegas will be a hub, and then whether it's Toronto or Columbus is TBD, depending upon the Canadian government with the border, even though it does seem like coronavirus cases in America are potentially yodeling. Are we just going to have to become a place that just signs a waiver saying we understand that coronavirus could potentially be a danger whenever we go to places like the Ohio State football team has enacted this past weekend? Maybe. But aside from the NHL, which does feel like it's going to come back with its 24-game tournament, little frozen thing, whatever, you get it, that's going to happen. It feels like that's going to happen. The MLB feels like they're further away than they've ever been. This weekend, the MLB Players Association said to the MLB, listen, you have by the end of the day, June 15th, today, to tell us what the schedule is, what the plan is, and how you want us to go forward from here on out, because neither side has listened to either side's proposals. They've countered each other kind of just by in the sense that they've sent a contract response back after somebody has sent one, but they have not gone anything off of the contracts that were sent from the other side. It's all been in their own wording. The MLB players want 100% pro rata. That's what they want. They say, hey, this is what we agreed upon. We'll play the lesser game season, obviously, because of how it is, but we want 100% prorated contracts because that's what the MLB is. It's guaranteed contracts. This is what the CBA is. And the MLB is like, nope, can't do it because the amount of money we're going to lose from not being able to have fans in the stands and a shortened game and all that stuff, we won't be able to pay you. So the MLB has made offers back. We'll pay you 80 to 85%. How about that? That was their most recent, like maybe 70 to 85%. The most, that's the highest we got. 15%, 20%, what is that? It's really not. And the MLB players said, get the hell out of here. We are not setting a precedent right now, especially going into a CBA negotiation here, that we will be willing to take a salary cap, and then you guys have to tell us what we're going to make and what we're not going to make. So the MLB players finally said they're enough with the back and forth here. Just tell us what you're expecting to happen on Monday, and we'll see how it goes. It's interesting because the wording that was used by the MLB to describe this entire negotiation is very interesting, especially as somebody, me, who's had to read through a lot of contracts. The MLB put out these words, and it was just kind of like a quote on Get Up this morning on the lower third, but I think it's going to play very, very important in the conversation of this whole thing. The MLB said that they were disappointed that the MLBPA did not negotiate in good faith. Okay, so they felt as if the MLBPA had not negotiated in good faith. And I would assume that in those contracts, the CBA negotiation, that everything was agreed upon in good faith negotiation happening. So the MLB saying that they don't think the MLBPA has negotiated in good faith is them basically setting up to say this was a breach of contract. If this was a breach of contract, then they can basically make any rules that they want to make, which means we're only going to get uglier and uglier than getting better and better. That little statement there, the MLB being disappointed that the MLB players did not negotiate in good faith, is a setup for a much larger dispute that is going to take place probably within the next few days. We talked to Jet Passon last week. Shout out Jet. He was on Get Up this morning. I think he's going to be joining us tomorrow. We talked to Jet last week, and Jet said that they were in the 111th hour. That is why the MLB players said they want the MLB to lay out the schedule by today. But the MLB players have also come out and said, like the individual players themselves, said the MLB doesn't have to come out with anything until mid-August if they really want to enforce their schedule, their 48, 50-game schedule. They're not really backs. Oh, geez, take it easy. They're not really, their backs aren't really against the wall whenever it comes to it because their shortened season still has nothing but time. So that's why the MLB players have said, we want a schedule set up by the end of the day today, because I think they're thinking that the MLB is trying to delay until there's a less amount of games, and they can do the prorated thing if that's what they want. It's less money. It's very interesting. It's very ugly, and I don't think it's good for the state of baseball, and I don't think they're even going to be looking for replacement players, which is a little bit of a bummer because I thought that was going to be us.
Yeah, and I believe Jet talked about last week the good faith thing, because now if it goes past this, it then goes into discovery, and they have to ask for the communications between people to see if it was in good faith versus how much the MLB is making. So it's going to get
the good faith thing is such an interesting, like for instance, the NFL started putting in that they could fine you for conduct detrimental to the team. And that conduct detrimental to the team turned out that could be a photo in an equipment room that they can take $10,000 out of your bank account for. Like that. That's how, well, if you think about it, that photo potentially had something in the background that could potentially give an advantage to our opponent. So therefore, that is conduct detrimental to this team. We could fine you an entire paycheck, was the exact words I was told. We're only going to take $15,000, $10,000. You're welcome. It's like, okay, well, now you're just hiding behind this. That in good faith thing, massive words to use, because in every contract negotiation, for both sides to make a deal, whenever they sign the deal, is like, hey, if I want something to happen, and it's not in here, how do we go? Well, we'll have that conversation in good faith, and if it happens, it happens. That's like a way to cover any holes in a contract for something to come up. They're like, if something pops up, in good faith, we will discuss this. In good faith. So the MLB coming out and saying, we're disappointed, honestly. Listen, that piece of metal means everything to us, and yeah, the Yankees might have done something in 2017, and we might have covered it up more than we covered up the Houston Astros or anything like that, but in good faith is not what the MLB players did. This is only going to get worse. We have Jet Passon joining us tomorrow. In the NBA, Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard were speaking on a call with 80 players, I believe it was said this weekend, to discuss how the plans in Orlando that are supposed to lay out on July 31st, the NBA is supposed to be back. Remember, there was a lot of momentum behind this. A lot of momentum. Adam Silver said, I'm not going to give you any answers because I have no idea what the future holds. Mark Cuban said, I'm not on the committee that's putting basketball back together, but from what I heard, it's going to be in Orlando because they're our biggest partners. We'll do this. LeBron James came out and said, I want to play. Chris Paul said, I want to play. Then, obviously, George Floyd's murder sparked a movement that, kind of ignited our entire country to realize that there's a lot that has to happen here for us to continue to grow and become a place with its ideals, which meant it's equal and opportunity for everybody. So now the conversation isn't just about a pandemic, COVID-19. It's also about what happens if there's some social justice movement that an NBA player would like to go to, would like to attend, would like to be a part of, and it just so happens to fall into the 35 to 40-day confinement in Orlando that will be happening for the 8 games of the rest of the regular season. That'll be added for the 13 from the West and the 9 from the East, and then a potential 82 days if you go to the NBA Finals in Orlando, how long you'll be confined to your room. What happens if something like that happens? And I understand why Kyrie Irving and Dwight Howard and I assume many others are wondering that, because I feel like whenever you represent a community, I got a chance to see this with a lot of my teammates. A lot of my teammates, the responsibility for you to put on for where you came from is a massive one, from your community, from your family, and everything like that. That's why when the kneeling protest happened and the conversation got directed in a different way than it should have, it just became about the military, disrespecting the military and disrespecting the flag. That's why the conversations in the locker room were so raw, because the players and teammates of mine, that's why Drew Brees, I've said this from the beginning, that's why so many people are disappointed with Drew Brees, because he was a part of those conversations. Whenever you're in those locker rooms and they're describing, and Charles Barkley said this, they're like, we don't live this life anymore because we are currently living in nice places and we made it and we worked our asses off to get here. But this is what's happening in these neighborhoods. This is what we went through as children. So they feel a very sense of pride that they are sticking up for their community, even in the conversations they were having in the locker room where they were educating people who maybe didn't know what it was like. So whenever you're a representative of a community that is currently in the middle of making a push for equal rights and stuff like that, you could see how being locked in a area, and now granted locked is you're in quarantine in Orlando basically, so you could see how some people would be like, hey, what's We can't do that. That can't be something we do. But then if you take a step back and you think about what time, it's June 15th right now. Protests still happening. Conversations still happening, more so than ever. I think a lot of people have potentially thought about setting aside their judgments. Maybe they've been tone deaf before. But by July 31st, do you think the people that don't want to hear the protests anymore are still going to hear anything about this? If you go to a town that doesn't want to hear this anymore, do you think they're going to be able to direct their way out of there? The entire country was talking about this. July 31st, the NBA will be everything on television. They're talking about having 6 games a day down there. Now, I am not obviously saying one way or the other, but I feel like the amount of awareness you could bring whenever you're the only show in town, 6 games a day, and you're going to have press conference and microphones and stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of messages that can be spread. Now, granted, is that action? I think some people could view it as action, as using your platform for something better, but I don't know how this is going to play out. I just hope that there is a conversation like, hey, maybe, and I'm not saying they should do you do whatever the hell you want to do. Whatever you think is right, you got to do what you got to do. But I think maybe the conversation should be, you know what, we're going to have the entire globe watching us for, I don't know, 30 days, probably 6 games a day. We have Mike. Maybe that is a time where we can maybe push this initiative even more. And I assume those conversations are happening behind the scenes. I would assume there's a lot of NBA. Austin Rivers came out and talked about it. I assume Patrick Beverley came out and said, hey, if LeBron wants to hoop, we're going to hoop. That's just what you guys need to understand. Patrick Beverley, classic pest for LeBron James as well. I mean, so there's a lot that's going on, but it does feel as if the NBA's momentum that we all thought was going to happen has been slowed up quite a bit for real reasons, and real conversations are going to have to happen. Adam Silver, though, seems to be a guy who can get those conversations done. If they're looking for replacement players, I would like to throw my name in there. I hit a couple step-back threes the other day from NBA three-point range. They were actually going in so easily and looked so effortless. A lot of people thought it was potentially a college three or a high school three.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, pal. Okay? Yeah, right. When we built this studio, built this office, and who's going to have a basketball court? You know why? Because motion creates emotion. You got to be able to move. It makes you think and stuff like that. Anytime I start shooting hoops, I start getting some deep thoughts. I'm like, I would like a basketball court in here. Then when it came to paint the three-point line, a person came in. They were like, we get you a high school and college three-point line, no problem. I'm like, excuse me. Is there any chance of me going back and playing high school basketball? No. Is there any chance of me going back to play college basketball? No. But you know what could happen? In this office right here, maybe I take some DMT or some mushrooms and somehow I figure out how to be the best shooter on earth. I could potentially make the NBA still.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a NBA three-point line, and that's what we got. And people are like, well, it's too easy. Well, we don't know. Will the replacement players be needed? Not sure. There's a lot of discussion that has to happen in the NBA before July 31st gets going, but that one is up in the air. So the NHL is a yes. The MLB seems like a no. The NBA seems like a And the AFL is like, hey, PGA went this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Guy never heard of one. Congrats to him. This guy, Mr. Berger, has 28 consecutive rounds under par. He is the current hottest golfer in the PGA. To put that in contrast, he is currently at the top of the current PGA golfers for most consecutive rounds under par at 28, which is really, really impressive. I'm not sure I will ever accomplish that. Tiger Woods, back in the middle of his Tiger Slam days, 52. So, I mean, Berger's on his way, though.
Yeah.
He is on his way. Sweet par. Rory was in it there, kind of collapsed. Spieth was hot, kind of collapsed. But I think this is a big weekend for Spieth because we talked about how Spieth had been playing in PGA events as a high schooler. Whenever he was young, he won. He was supposed to be the next one out of this Texas kid who's going to be the next big one. His math teacher's his caddy. Oh, my God, this is it. Under Armour gets a big sponsorship. He's golfing with the boys down in the Bahamas. Jordan Spieth is the next guy. Here we go. This is it. And then see you later. Everything falls apart in between his ears. The guy stinks at golf all of a sudden. This weekend, though, he comes back, plays great golf, doesn't get it done, but I wonder if there's a moment where Jordan Spieth looked in the mirror and said, hey, this is the Jordan Spieth. It's nice to know I still have this inside of me somewhere, because if confidence was his issue, or if in between his ears was his issue, whenever you play good golf, I assume for a couple in a row and things that matter, especially in your hometown of Texas, you have to think, you know, I still got it in here. I wasn't able to finish it, but I still got it. And golf is so much of a what have you done for me lately. I think Spieth's brain is feeling rather good about himself, even though he couldn't get it done. Shout out to the Berger. damn Xander Schauffele. I am so sorry about that rim job you got. I mean, every once in a while, I guess people say those things are really good for you. And every once in a while, whenever you're putting and you squeeze one through the side door and it goes in, you're like, thank God. In the middle of a tournament that big, that much on the line on the 15th hole, for your ball to completely do-si-do with the hole and come right back to you as if it's Happy Gilmore. You have got to be furious. I don't know how he kept his composure. I have no idea. It happened later as in the playoff hole as well. I guess there was another rim job. That guy hit the hell out of that ball, though. I mean, that wasn't as good of a putt as Xander's was. But, boy, golf is back. NHL is going to be back. The MLS is going to be back.
Yeah.
The AFL is back.
Yeah.
The NFL is going to be back.
Yeah.
MLB and NBA, though, a lot of question marks around it right now.
I believe Premier League comes back this week.
Here we go. Bundesliga's back. KBO's back. At Nick Moraldo's back. At Tone Diggs is back. Ty Schmidt is back. Jason McAfee stumbled in here about 4 minutes ago. At Viva Lazito's here. At Evan Foxy is here. Shout out to Sammy Sosa. That guy he's just happy, man.
Yep.
It could have been Griffey, but God chose me, says Sammy Sosa.
True.
At Boston Connor, 1-833-622-3331. What's going on, man?
You know, just a little Friday energy on a Monday.
I like the sleeve on the head.
I love the sleeve on the head. I like it more than the bandana. I wish it was socially acceptable because I would leave the house with it on.
Why is it not socially acceptable? I think people wear sleeves on their head all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen a good sleeve on a head since, I don't know, September 09.
Really?
Yeah. It's been
I don't-
quite some time.
I guess I don't go out much, but I think you could probably potentially be the guy that brings that back. The only issue with the white one is if you sweat there,
Yeah.
like if that starts sweating, that's going to
Yeah.
get bad. You got to go with, I think, a darker colored one because,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, rip one of those shirts up. I only take them off of the white undershirts that I never wear.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see where your problem is.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's a problem. It is what it is. How's your weekend?
Hey,
huh?
my week was pretty good.
Yeah.
I watched that King of Staten Island thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tale of two movies. Okay, that's a tale of two movies. We get it. The first 32 minutes. Okay, we get that Pete Davidson is a scumbag in this movie. Okay, we get it. We understand it. I get that you have to set the tone or whatever. But once Bill Burr knocks on that door, that whole movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It is literally a tale of two movies. The first 30 minutes, I'm like, are you kidding? Well, it's a 137-minute movie. First of all, it's damn near Titanic at this point. So it's a long one. As soon as I saw that, I knew we were in for the long haul. So that first 30 minutes gets a bit repetitive, a bit ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Could have done the first 30 minutes, I think, in a minute, maybe 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and got the same exact point across, including the tattoo situation. I think you could have got that all done in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The fact that Judd Apatow decided to just go ahead and drain every last insufferability out of Pete Davidson in that 30 minutes, I can understand it. But boy, once Bill Burr shows up, that movie's a good movie. Damn near cried at the end of the whole
It's
thing.
an emotional one.
I mean, it is a good movie. They were promoting the hell out of it. They knew they were the only show in town. There was a commercial for that on literally everything. And I'll tell you, 17, 18, 19, 20 minutes into that thing, I knew it. I knew this guy couldn't create anything good, Pete Davidson. I knew it. And then Bill Burr knocks on that door with that glorious mustache. The whole thing starts kickstarting. I'm like, all right, I'll start paying attention. Then I fell asleep. Okay.
Of course.
Fell asleep.
Yeah.
Then I woke back up, started at him knocking at the door.
Perfect.
Ooh, good move.
Great. Best movie I've seen probably in 10 years, starting at that one right there and just going all the way through. Good movie. First 30 minutes I couldn't take
A
though.
lot of good supporting actors. How about Action Bronson walking up with
Poor guy.
after getting stabbed? That was hilarious.
I mean, that's a rather large part of the movie.
No.
The movie just came out 2 days
No,
ago.
not a large
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of the movie.
Yeah, it
It
is.
was just a little. It was just a little. Hey, wait for this scene to happen. You're gonna be laughing.
It's not really a laughing scene, I don't think. I mean,
I was playing tennis. I fell over. It's a good one. It's a good one.
yeah. Post Malone does have some, or not Post Malone. What's his name?
Action Bronson.
Action Bronson. The guy. He had an alien show there on History Channel.
Yes.
Yep.
And then he's a chef, I think, at one point.
Yeah, he's a chef. Yep.
That guy might be one of the most interesting people on earth. Good
Rapper.
actor, too.
Oh, yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly makes an appearance.
Yep.
in
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot. I liked King of Staten Island, the movie. But, man, you asked me about 20 minutes of that movie, what I thought of that movie. It was a very different story. I get it, Judd. We got to build up the character and really the whole storyline. But, I mean, we're in 2020. Let's expedite that whole thing.
I'm surprised you gave it till 32 minutes.
Well, it's because Bill Burr hadn't been in it yet.
Bingo.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, once Bill Burr gets in here, then we're really going to go, pedal to the metal. And it did.
By the way, great acting by Bill Burr.
Do you think he
Incredible.
ad-libbed most of those things, like those scenes where
It
he's
felt
going off?
very Bill Burr talking.
Exactly,
It
yeah.
felt very, very, very like with the 24-year-old thing.
Yeah.
That whole scene. It felt like that was very much Bill Burr talking, which I would assume Judd Apatow would be like, we have Bill Burr, one of the best brains ever. Let's just put him in a situation and tell you, hey, do this thing. And I would assume Pete Davidson did a lot of ad-libbing as well. But boy, you got to get to where it's worth it if you can wait 2 minutes. If you
So
can.
who wrote it? It was Judd Apatow and Pete Davidson?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both created
It was a good movie. It was a really good movie. Changed my thoughts on Pete Davidson.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
I like
Changed
him
my
now.
thoughts on Pete Davidson. 20 minutes in, though, solidified every thought I had. Knew this guy was whatever. Then after the movie, I'm like, all right, Pete Davidson. I am a Pete Davidson guy.
Back on him.
I was never, no. For the first time ever. You were on, then got off, and then
Yeah, on, off, back on.
See, I was never I felt bad. Obviously, his dad passed away and things like that. But when I saw him on Saturday Night Live, I was like, this guy stinks. I don't know why comedy's not an easy thing. I don't know if this should happen. But then this movie, I'm assuming that a lot of the stuff that he would try to do that he thinks is funny on Saturday Night Live wouldn't be able to do on Saturday Night Live because of how incredibly dark I feel like.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
for
definitely.
sure.
But that movie, I'm Pete Davidson fan now, which I don't think he cares, but I'm just, for me, it's a rather big deal. I'm like, good for him. And also here today, I didn't get a chance to do his minutes last week on Friday because we felt like there's a chance that he's just cheating. And there's no reason to listen to him stumble through one sentence and then move on. Our intern Mitt is here. He got off a party bus yesterday where there was full capacity was probably, 100 people. They had 450 people.
Yeah, give or take.
Just
Yep.
about.
How's the weekend, Mitt?
Very fun.
Oh,
Get this guy out of here. He's the worst.
What was it, a birthday yesterday?
Yeah, on Saturday night.
Saturday night. Whoa. So people still do party buses.
I guess that was my first time.
Why'd you mute him, Jay?
He said sorry.
Jeez.
Jay.
It's okay, Jay.
Jay just showed
Jay's
up.
had
Jay's
Yeah, was Jay
Jay's
hanging out
probably
with you
on
this
that party
weekend?
bus of yours. Unbelievable.
Did you redact him, Jay?
Was he take those from the minutes? So the party bus. What you guys just want club to club,
No, just a bunch of bars in Noblesville.
which is a town in Indiana for everybody.
Northern Indianapolis.
There you go. Hey, well, happy birthday to whoever it was. Looked like it was a Sweet 16 birthday party.
Yeah, look cool.
But I'm happy you had a good time, and you look good this morning coming in. You didn't look like your normal bag of that you.
The amount of comments coming in right now calling him a booze bag is
Who's back again?
All right, let's get to a break. 1-833-622. Nope, actually, computer's broke, so don't even call. We lost all our power. I don't know if you can see that. It's just one big circling thing on there. That son of a bitch ain't never getting back. Can't answer any calls. So don't call. We got Rick Bucher joining us in 18 minutes. This is the Pat McAfee Show, Monday, June 15th.
He's saying don't go off the top, it's too shallow.
All you're going to hear this stadium do is they put the big paw up, they start shaking it, they go, whoa. Hey, what things are going, look, Yeah, he loves the defensive side of the ball. He said yesterday to me that this is a blue-collar team. They win it on special teams. They have 5 block kicks this season. The defensive side of the ball, Lynch leads the Big 12 in sacks. But also on the offensive side, Denzel Mims is an absolute animal. He is a weapon. Charlie Brewer, the quarterback from Lake Travis. His dad was a quarterback in Texas. Yeah. His grandpa was a quarterback in Texas. And the people here in Waco just so happen to get a chance to see Charlie Brewer on a daily basis. Hey. Yeah, boomer here is going to mean a little bit different than what it means on the internet currently. And hopefully here in Baylor, they hope they're not hearing a lot of Boomer. Sooner. Everybody wants to be a punter, including quarterbacks. If I was a quarterback, I'd want to be a punter as well. 0 yards on that punt. It's an embarrassing situation. The Dak dance that gets on national television has led to a lot of losses, but you got to respect the hips being able to. What sign am I going to make for college game day? Well, I want to make something creative. I want to make something fun. No, to hell with it. I don't like OU. It's so thick. Look how thick that thing is. That's years and years of patience. You're heading right for the boat. Right now? Okay, let's do it. We are out here on the Brazos River, which you can take a boat to the game. One of the only stadiums in the country that you can do that. It's beautiful out here. A lot of people would say, this is the last time I'm going to be on game day. The last time I allegedly did what I'm about to do, I ended up in a jail cell. Let's go! The poop kickers are getting down there. A lot higher than I thought.
You look like Ric Flair. That was a sellout, by the way. That was beautiful.
Do we have any other shirts? Yeah, hold on.
You need to go get changed before you get sick.
Great work, Russia. I'm actually not that cold. Hey, I went for it. My chest hurts. It was like 5 feet. I was standing there. That's full commitment, by the way.
What's the number one sign of a bad home security system?
Doesn't secure the home.
Pretty much a home security system that's so complicated you never use it.
Oh, yeah.
This is exactly the type of security system SimpliSafe has spent a decade fighting against. They believe that simple is safer, and it's exactly why SimpliSafe is the home security for right now when feeling safe at home has never been more important. SimpliSafe was designed to be easy to use while protecting your whole home 24/7. Order online with the click of a button, open the box, place the sensors, plug it in, and your home is protected around the clock. No technician or salesperson has to come and disrupt your house. You don't need to pay any outrageous monthly fees or sign a 2-year contract. And it's why SimpliSafe was named the best overall home security of 2020 by U.S. News and World Report. And their 24/7 professional monitoring and emergency dispatch starts at 50 cents a day. Head to SimpliSafe.com/Pat and get free shipping and a 60-day money-back guarantee. That's SimpliSafe.com/Pat to make sure they know that our show sent you.
Hey, that boy, Ty. Good read there. Shout out Simply Safe. Chad Finn of the Boston Globe says that the Patriots and Colin Kaepernick are a perfect fit, a match made in heaven, basically. And I could see why Chad Finn would say that, because if you look back into the Patriots' history, they have a history of being able to handle circumstances that other teams can't handle. He referenced how Tebow Mania came through. Now, granted, they got rid of Tim Tebow. I would assume potentially because of Tebow Mania. But then you look at the other players who've been able to go up there and compete and play at a high level where other places they might not have been able to because of BS drama off the field that should never have been a problem to begin with. So, and they did have a serial killer in
Oh, yeah.
in the locker room at one point playing great football.
Great football.
Great football. So
Caught a dime.
I think he was very good at football. If Hernandez could have potentially restrained himself from murdering people, the Patriots might have won 15 straight Super Bowls.
Possible.
Hernandez and Gronk on the same field for an extended period of time with Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels being able to figure out let alone whenever Jules comes through there. I mean, but that's why. Do you think about that team?
Oh, yeah.
So
Do I think about that team?
I wonder.
All the time.
Now, granted, rest in peace to all the people that Hernandez just shot right in the head and stuff like absolutely terrible. But that football team, that's why Chad Finn of the Boston Globe said that the Patriots are a perfect fit because everybody that talked about Colin Kaepernick going to a team. Now, he has not played in 4 years. Okay? Being a quarterback in the NFL, not playing for 4 years is a long time. I mean, that is just a long, long time of not being in a league, not being in a system, not being in a workout regimen that is revolved around playing. That is a very tough thing to do. But Kaepernick, great quarterback whenever he was playing quarterback at a very high level. And the conversation, obviously now we all very much understand after Goodell admitted that they weren't listening before and that they didn't treat it. The NFL has even admitted that the Colin Kaepernick kneeling protest that then became Kaepernick being out of the league and then Kaepernick never getting a job, and then Kaepernick obviously losing trust in the NFL, and the NFL saying we don't want him here. And I mean, it's been 4 years of a pretty nasty relationship, and now with the way the world has turned and with how the world has opened their eyes to a lot of things that they might have shut them to in the past, including Roger Goodell, after most of his young star players came out and said, hey, basically this is what we're expecting from you. We are in a point of society now where everybody has their eyes open to what's going on, and we're all trying to make it better. So now the conversation is, they hire Colin Kaepernick, it'll make everything a lot better as opposed to just being a bunch of lip service. Now, I've talked about how a backup quarterback's job is a lot different than just being the second best quarterback on a team. A backup quarterback is a massive deal. Not only are you doing homework assignments for the starting quarterback, not only are you breaking down things for the starting quarterback to be another set of eyes, not only are you helping in preparation for the game and stuff, but you have to be able to run the scout team D, throw every single ball, be able to adjust. You have to be a coach basically in the quarterback room, and then you also have to be able to do everything that it counts for when you're running the scout team. So being a backup quarterback isn't just being a guy who's ready to play starting quarterback when the starting quarterback goes down. In a lot of situations, it's like, hey, you're here almost as a vice president to serve the starting quarterback, okay? And I don't know if that is normal everywhere, but what I saw, that was what it was. Matt Hasselbeck was there to serve Andrew Luck. How do I make Andrew Luck a better player? How do I talk Andrew Luck into, who's already super, how can I shed some of my knowledge from being in the NFL for 75 years that Matt Hasselbeck was whenever he got to us into Andrew Luck? Whenever I was on the team, whenever Peyton was there. Jim Sorgi, you know why Jim Sorgi was around for so long? Jim Sorgi knew how to break down film in a fashion nobody else could. He could give Peyton little homework, or he would get homework assignments from Peyton that could be able to tell you one little thing. If this guy's foot's like this, it's cover 3 instead of cover 2. That was what Jim Sorgi was doing. That was handed off to Curtis Painter. That's why Jim Sorgi got a job with the Giants, by the way. Eli Manning was the quarterback there. That's why Jim Sorgi went there. So a backup quarterback is not just hey, this guy is the quarterback that goes in whenever our starting quarterback gets hurt. It's a lot more than that. It is a massive, massive deal. And that quarterback room has to be very, very tight. So whenever you heard all these football GMs or owners come out and say the reason why we don't want to sign Kaepernick is because we don't want to bring in a distraction. Now, was that warranted? I don't think so. I don't think that Colin Kaepernick is necessarily a distraction to the locker room whenever he goes in there, because the NFL locker room very much understood what Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for, very much understood what the entire thing was going on. But maybe from the outside, like when Tebow shows up places, there's more distraction, there's more press, there's more eyeballs, there's more of a spotlight. You're in a fishbowl even more because you have it. Maybe that was all warranted. But now that we're at the point 4 years later, are we at the point where Colin Kaepernick still wants to play in the NFL? Has anybody talked to Colin Kaepernick? Last year, there was a workout down in in Atlanta. I was hoping that he would go to that workout just to prove that he still had it, because all these people that refused to listen to Colin Kaepernick still had it. I was thinking like, hey, he goes to this workout, they still don't sign him. Even more people would be on Kaepernick's side. Even more people would hear his message. Ultimately, at the end of the day, his lack of trust for the NFL and opportunity and all that stuff, he ended up doing a workout down the road. Nobody inevitably signs him. From the things that I saw on the video, yeah, he threw a couple deep balls, but I would assume that an NFL workout that they would have put him through was going to be much different. Whatever, we still got no answers. But at this point, does Colin Kaepernick still want to play in the NFL? I'm not 100% sure. If he does, okay. I think the NFL is at a point now where it'd be very smart to give him a lot of workouts and a lot of opportunities to prove himself as being a good backup quarterback or even a starting quarterback in some situations. Let him go for it. Pete Carroll said there is a team interested to reach out to him because Pete Carroll said, since we are the last team to work him out in 2017, somebody called me to see where his head's at. Why don't they think about giving him a consulting or an advising type position in the NFL? Now, I don't know. I have no idea. It's not my job to say, hey, I haven't seen Colin Kaepernick play football. I have no idea if he should be on a football team right now. I have no idea about any of that stuff, right? I know him and Cam Newton are both on the street right now, which doesn't make any sense. And if Cam Newton doesn't have a job right now, which is outrageous in my mind, especially in some of the cases, but I don't know if Colin Kaepernick is going to be a guy who's going to get a job 4 years off and not playing. The NFL should, at least in the just a smart, non-tone deaf, maybe make our game and league even better and try to learn from it. They should at least give him a role in the NFL somehow. And I think that is something that has been a bit eye-opening for me. Like, okay, maybe he's not ready to be a backup quarterback. Maybe you don't want him to be a backup quarterback on your team for whatever it is. He hasn't played for 4 years. You don't know if he's able to provide everything that you want your backup quarterback to be able to provide. Whatever the case is. At the very least, Roger Goodell, who's already admitted fault in this entire thing, he brought in Jay-Z to be a part of a committee and a council. I believe this is just a smart move. Make amends with somebody that you had a very public war with, and then boom, you're setting the example for everybody else. This is how we think it should go on. I'm not sure he's going to get a job as a quarterback in the NFL ever again, but I do believe the NFL should think about getting back into business with Colin Kaepernick to hopefully be able to move the league forward in a better fashion as it goes forward. That's I think they're giving $250 million. I think they pledged another $250 million and stuff like. I think these are things that are good, and I think a very good move would be to employ Colin Kaepernick of some sort, even if the teams don't see him as a backup quarterback.
How long do you think? I mean, he's not super old or anything like that, but how long would it take to reacclimate your body to like playing in the NFL when you haven't played for 4 years?
I have no idea. Just because I tried to go back and kick some balls last year after not doing anything except for, smoking vitamins and drinking a little bit. And my whole lower half said, nah, we ain't doing that, dog. Like that ain't. I would assume Colin Kaepernick has kept himself in much better shape than I ever have. But there's something different about when you get back in there. McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, youtube.com/The Pat McAfee Show, myself and AJ Hawk Talk. He always talks about how the first day of training camp is terrible. Second day is terrible. It's not until like day 6 he feels better, but that's because he's in shape going in there. Nobody knows how good a shape Colin Kaepernick's in. That workout he would have done down in Atlanta with the NFL, by the way, would have been very cardiovascular. I mean, that would have been a difficult work. I've seen them work people out, and it is... They're trying to kill you. They're just trying to run you to see how good a shape you are. If we need you this weekend, can you stand? And they just run. And we didn't get to see that happen with Colin or not. What's up, Zeke?
Can we think of any other players? Like, first came to mind was Michael Vick, right? Like a year of prison, came back. Does that compare at all?
4 years is a long time. Time. That 4 years is.
There's no other player who's been close to like 4 years off. Like I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so.
Mark Herzlich, I think, missed 2, but he had cancer and then he came back.
4 years is a long time.
Alden Smith's going to try.
Yeah.
And think about the game, though, from a quarterback perspective of because he was ahead of his time, obviously. Yeah. I mean, he was ahead of his time. The game almost fits him now more, though. So maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Maybe Colin Kaepernick does come back. And I'm not saying that he can't do that, but I just think the NFL should be like, hey, you know what, Colin? Let's go ahead and make this right. Let's figure this out. I want to listen. You want to help. So we want to help. Let's do it. Let's come together and make this happen. That just seems like the right move. Hopefully the NFL will do that. 38 minutes after the hour, we got to get to a break. We got NBA guy. What is he? NBA guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Insider.
Yeah. All over.
Huge.
Rick Bucher calling in on the other side of the break, talking about the 80 NBA players that are currently having conversations about whether or not they should go to Orlando. We'll talk to him. We'll get a real answer. And also, is there a replacement?
Uh-oh.
No. I'm going to travel. 30 minutes after the hour, we're back with Rick Bucher on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show. I could see how a guy like Richard Sherman, who's been in the league a long time and has had success, could be like, hold on. This young little isn't going to dap me up. But on the flip side, Baker's like, well, you're enemy number one for me. Because that's how Baker has always operated. And now Richard Sherman says, so you don't see any difference in the way I shake everyone else's hand and the guy who stands back with the petty shake was BS and I took offense to it, then turns and runs off. It's not that big of a deal. It swept the nation yesterday. It was controversy like no other controversy in the NFL world. Joining us right now, Richard Sherman. Everything you do and say is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I would agree.
Baker Mayfield is also a man that everything he does and says is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I wouldn't agree as much, but sure. So I put my hand out, just out of courtesy. And he gives me a little petty slap on the hand. And I took it as disrespect. People can say, oh my God, he shook your hand. Like, what? Oh my God, you were wrong. You can say whatever you want. I don't give a damn.
Is there anything you'd like to say? Like, hey man, I apologize for the misquote there. I did see on video the dap up, although it was a bit petty. I apologize for everything that happened, or are we just moving forward?
Oh, it's going to be a bit of both. It's definitely my bad. I never want anybody to have to deal with some shit some stuff that they didn't do, And so I'll probably reach out to him via text or social media to actually get a hold of him and talk to him in person. First off, that was a great name y'all came up with, like Dapgate. I was crying laughing. But yeah, he definitely deserves an apology, and that's my bad on that.
Richard, I'll tell you what, bro. To show the humility right there to say, hey, my bad on that entire thing. Once I watched the film back, it was different than what I thought. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot more respect for you. They should at least. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here. Monday, June 15th. It was just announced that Robert Mathis will be going into the Indianapolis Colts Ring of Honor. Congratulations to him. Good dude. Great teammate. Ultimate Colt. Congrats to him. Joining us now is a man who is a Bleacher Report NBA writer, once TNT sideline reporter, man who hosts the Bucher and Friends podcast, and an NBA analyst on Fox Sports 1, ladies and gentlemen, Rick Bucher. Hey, Rick. What's up, Rick?
Thanks for having me, Pat.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you immensely. You big Niners fan? Is that a 49ers football up there in the bookshelf out there your right shoulder?
That is a big 49ers. That is a 49ers football. There's also a Raiders autographed football here. I've been in the Bay Area for a while. I actually grew up in Cincinnati. I was unfortunately, I'm probably mostly a Bengals fan. But I picked up the Raiders as my second team as a kid growing up, just because they were a little more successful than the Bengals. So, there you go.
Yeah, well, Joe Burrow's going to turn the team around. And they're going to build an indoor facility at some point for them to practice in, like most high schools have in Ohio. Let's get to NBA. When the NBA came out with this plan, July 31st plan down in Orlando, Adam Silver was very patient on his delivery. He said, don't listen. I'm not going to say anything now. We're going to learn more. We're going to learn more. We're going to learn more. Right. Then now we have this 13 teams in the West, 9 teams in the East, 8 more games. Then if you're in the top 8, you get to go 4 games within 9. Now the conversation revolves around whether or not the players who at the beginning wanted to get this thing done. That was a big driving force, was that the star players wanted to get this tournament done. They wanted to finish the season. They want to get going. LeBron, Chris, Harden, you name it. Then, obviously, when George Floyd was murdered, a lot of things changed. What are you hearing about the conversation that took place this weekend with Kyrie, Dwight Howard, 80 basketball and NBA players allegedly? And what are your thoughts on whether or not this returns on July 31st?
Still fully believe that we are going to get back to playing basketball July 31st. I don't think that's going to change.
Okay, Rick. All right. We appreciate that. Bearer of good news, Rick Bucher.
Yes. The issue is, as it always is, and I'm sure, Pat, that you can relate to this with dealings with the NFLPA and the NFL in general, is that this is always the challenge, is for the NBA, you've got to get 450-some guys together and be of like mind and have a conversation where everybody feels like they're on the same page, and more important, feels like they have been heard and their issues have been addressed. And in order for the Players Association to work with the league to get this moving in the right direction, they had to have the top voices ultimately make a decision. And so that's how they got on this train moving in this particular direction. Now, as you mentioned, a lot has changed in the world since they initially made that move. And what's confusing here with Kyrie Irving is that Kyrie Irving was part of those initial conversations. And Kyrie Irving had a vote in terms of what they were going to do. And he was good with coming back and moving in this direction. I get where you look at it and say, okay, well, is this really in the best interest of social justice in making sure that Black Lives Matter and that movement is not interrupted? I'm all good with that, but you need to have that conversation, and then you need to come correctly in order to make that effective. I believe that there are guys that feel the way that Kyrie do. I do not believe there are enough of them that is going to disrupt this or that is going to put a stop on coming back. And the challenge, and this is where it gets tough, and I don't have the answers. But it's really difficult for anybody to make a move on the league and to say we should not be playing basketball in order to support Black Lives Matter when you are benefiting from playing basketball. And now you put guys in the crux of, am I going to give up my career in order to serve this movement? If you are, I have no issue with that. But understand that that's what you are putting on the line. That's what Colin Kaepernick ultimately put on the line in order to support the cause as he did. And if the players do not come back and play, I assure you that the owners, because they will owe their broadcast partners so much money, they will say, we have to blow up the collective bargaining agreement and we have to start over. And I don't know that the way that collective bargaining agreement would look coming back is going to be to the benefit of the players that initially got together and said, let's come back and play basketball.
Yeah, it's so interesting because Kyrie did say he's willing to sacrifice everything for the cause. That's one of the quotes that has come out from these conversations. And Steven Jackson, who has been a leader in this, one of George Floyd's very close friends growing up, and he calls him his twin. He's been like a lifelong family friend. He's come out and said that the NBA basketball would distract the messaging. And now, as a white person, same with you, I think July 31st, that tournament could potentially put more of a spotlight on the message. But for them to decide that's going to be, I mean, there's a lot of conversations that have to take place. Let's say that the basketball thing doesn't happen and you say that they blow up the CBA. Isn't there another CBA negotiation coming up rather soon as well? Like MLB, for instance. The MLB has another CBA negotiation happening after this season, and they're already going at it to try to set the precedent for the next CBA. For the NBA and the NBPA, is there another CBA negotiation coming up, or you just think they're going to...
It's down the line. Oh. It's down the line. It's not anything that's imminent. So it's not as if that's just around the corner. And here's the other part for me is that if you are going to take this stand, first of all, make sure that you have enough guys that you can take this stand and you're not on an island, or do what the late Pat Tillman did and say, this is my stand. I'm not going to play. I'm going to go and serve my country, or I'm going to go and dedicate myself to this thing. But make sure that you're in a place that doesn't have you out of whack, because now, I think that the cause, I think that the movement, I think all of it is just, I've long felt that way. But if you don't do it correct, then it's really easy for people to dismiss the importance of what you're fighting for. And so we're at a place now where if players don't come back and play, we've heard too much about not just a distraction from Black Lives Matter, but man, 3 months of quarantine. Am I going to have my family with me? It's going to be in Orlando. Make sure that your message is clear in terms of why you're not playing.
Yeah, and I think this is not just an NBA issue, too. This is the MLB issue, because when Blake Snell came out on his Twitch and said, I got to get mine, when he was talking about money, then there was different messaging coming out. It always seems as if nobody knows the exact roadmap how to do this exactly, because we're in an unprecedented time, obviously. And I do believe we are at a time where there's heightened awareness to the black community and the black strife. And I just hope that somehow this moment can be utilized as almost a showcase of like, hey, this needs to be something we still talk about. I'm a diehard sports fan, diehard NBA fan. Right. So obviously I'm hoping he comes back. Whatever they end up making decisions is going to be their decision. Who wins if they come back? Everybody thinks that the Clippers are a deep team. I think Giannis is going to be tough to stop, but I'll tell you what, Zion Williamson coming out of quarantine. Don't be surprised if the Pelicans get hot, Rick, whenever they get back into that thing.
Pat, I need to see what shape Zion Williamson
He's in good shape, Rick. He's in good shape. Don't even worry about it. He's in good shape.
I saw him before when he had like facilities and he had a team and he had trainers. And so I'm going to slow my roll on that particular subject. But I believe that the Toronto Raptors have a tremendous advantage because they've been through everything. This is going to be a huge mental test. And if there's any team that is mentally tough, it's the defending champions, because they just went through this road, right? They just won a championship. They know what it takes to get there. I also believe that the Clippers do have an advantage because, especially if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are now completely healthy and everybody is starting from the same starting line. And I basically look at it as how we looked at the beginning of the year when they came out and they played the Lakers. Paul George still wasn't back. And the Lakers came out. They obviously wanted to win that game in a big way. And they were in it for a quarter, 2 quarters. And then the second half, it just changed. And we all looked at the Clippers and said, man, they haven't even played together that long. And they're really good. Just imagine what they're going to be. I feel like this is the second season. It's the same thing. You look at their raw ability and what they have, and now Kawhi and Paul George are going to be healthy. Woo! That's a scary proposition.
Well, Rick, we can't thank you enough for joining us. We got to get to a hard out here. You like the Clippers, you like the Raptors. I'm taking the Pelicans. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Bucher. Rick. Thank you, man. Hour 1 wrapping up here on Monday, June 15th. We'll be back on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. When those conversations get real close to the radio break, I never know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Tough.
Because he's mid-answer there.
Yeah.
Wanting to cut him off. Rick Bucher had some interesting thoughts there. I never know what to do when somebody gives an answer that I don't fully agree with. Like, do I just, because my name is on the fucking show, do I just cut in and stop them and then ask them to elaborate, or do I let them say their piece because I want to be a hospitable host? It's an interesting juggling act. What's it?
Well, I think you give them the classic Mark Madden approach where, yeah, well, you're wrong, but let me tell you why.
Yeah, see, so I always try to, like, before the next question, I always try to say, like, well, yeah, I mean, they're like that time I was like, I mean, it's going to be a tough decision they're going to have to make themselves, but I don't know. It's always very interesting. Rick was good. He had a lot to say there. He was ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
he said he thinks basketball's coming back. Well, that's good news because this weekend it felt like it was just I don't think basketball's coming back.
I was interested to hear him talk about like next season and then blowing up the CBA because you love
Jay, what the fuck is going on?
He said sorry again.
Yeah. Jay,
you love these reports, but the report that came out this morning, a Western Conference coach believes there will be an NBA lockout in 2021 if the season doesn't resume.
Yeah, because this is going to be just like what's going to happen with MLB. They're not going to have enough money to pay all the deals that they had. And I guess we were going to save this for the second hour or the first hour. It's like these MLB players signing $400 million contracts, fully guaranteed, $200 million. It never made sense to me. I have no idea how the lowest of the four major sports has these contracts that are bigger than the biggest sports. I feel, by the way, I loved it. Like, I fucking love that people are getting $200 million guaranteed. I watched that McGuire-Sosa thing. I mean, what they did to baseball there 4 years after the strike or whatever the hell it was, lockout. I mean, it was very good for baseball, but I never understood how these people are making these contracts that were just so large, and how the teams continued to go and generate cash. I think if you go without a season and there's no cash coming in, let alone the no fans, let alone the no concessions, let alone the no $10 beers. But if you're talking about just no revenue streams at all from local radio, local TV, national TV, anything like, I don't know how the future of baseball looks anything like the contracts have looked here in the last 10 years of baseball. I don't know how they do any of it. It's going to affect everything going down. And that's what the NFL started talking about. The NFL started talking about, well, if this season we only have 25% of the fans because we're only allowed a certain amount, that's going to affect next year's contracts, which then we're going to have to get back that next year. I mean, there's a lot of that future story guessing that has to happen by all these leagues and by the people that are setting up the contracts. And for baseball, it's like, it feels like that's going to be a whole, like in 20 years, I think I'm going to say, at one point they were handing out $200, $300 million contracts in baseball. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore after this whole thing.
It seems like I assumed, at least for this, that they'll just continue to like backload these contracts like crazy. Where like the guys will get like a $300 million deal, but then they'll pay them for like 40 years.
You got to remember, who's that? Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah. Bobby Bonilla, Scherzer, the pitcher for the Nationals right now, has something kind of similar. Like he's going to be playing, or he's getting paid like 8 years after his contract's over.
I think Allen Iverson's cashing in a $10 million check in like 8 years from now or something like that.
With Reebok.
Yeah, with Reebok. No, that's why when I go into a fucking gas station, I get a scratch off. I want one that's paying me every month for the rest of my life. Just so I can have like, all right, if it all comes crashing down, at least I know this motherfucking scratch off that I got is going to pay me at least $2,500 a month for the rest of my life. That's like what the Bobby Bonilla deal is. Like once a year, we give you $1 million for the next 100 years. I assume that's what baseball would be like, but these $200, $300, $400 million contracts, I just don't know how they survive, especially in the middle of the fisticuffs that they're currently in the middle of in negotiation.
So when Iverson just turned 45, when he turns 55, he's going to receive $32 million from his Reebok deal.
Wow.
Good for him.
That's the answer, baby.
That's a smart deal, by the way. That's better than setting up your 401k. That's better than setting up fake investments into a market that nobody knows how it works. I mean, that is good investment. That's the type of deal you're looking for. And that's why I always play that same fucking scratch off. I just want to pay once a month for the rest of my life. That's the way it goes.
Also, how do you think it's going to go when like certain guys who haven't got broken off yet but are very good are expecting a contract, and then they look at someone else? It's like, this bum is making this amount, and you're offering me this. Like
it's gonna. Anytime there's a transition period, it's always kind of like, for instance, this is nothing similar, but kind of. When we were in high school, when I was in high school, every single year from my 7th grade year on was in construction. Okay, so 7th grade, junior high was in construction. 8th grade, junior high was in construction. 9th grade, high school. 10th, 11th, 12th. But then immediately afterwards, nice school for everybody.
Yep.
When I was at West Virginia, our locker rooms were shit. Then immediately afterwards, very nice. Any transition period is tough, but then the next generation will be able to survive. Good morning, beautiful people. It is Monday, June 15th. Hours 2 kicks off in a beautiful fashion. We have Mark Schlereth joining us here in about 40 minutes to talk about all things happening in the world, the NFL, and the fact that not only is Jerry Judy running incredible routes in a field that he's posting on the internet, but Drew Lock also has like the highest QBR against the playoff team last year, like top 5 QBR against playoff team last year. Is the future of the Broncos magnificent? And is Mark Schlereth excited about the Broncos potentially getting back into relevance and what's happening in the world today? Mark Schlereth has been doing very, very, very big work on the internet, whether it's raising the alarms about social injustices or the branding of offensive linemen. I think Mark Schlereth will be a good conversation every time he comes on. I appreciate it. He'll be joining us in about 40 minutes. Rick Bucher, basketball NBA guy for Bleacher Report, Fox Sports 1, TNT. I mean, he's literally worked everywhere and been around baseball for a long time. He's a Cincinnati Bengals fan, a Niners fan, and a Raiders fan. I shout out to him, just trying to find some success. I assume right now he's with the Niners. He said that he thinks basketball will be happening at the end of July. But right now, there's a lot of conversation on whether or not it will, because players are not going to be thrilled about the thought of being locked down in the happiest place on earth in Orlando, while potential protests and legislature and actions can be taken by players. This is a wild Monday, June 15th, because just a couple of days ago, we felt as if every sport was going to come back. The NBA, they're going to come back. The NHL is going to come back. The MLS is going to come back. Everything's going to come back. And then now here we sit, Monday, June 15th. Feels like the MLB probably not going to come back. The MLB Players Association has said to the MLBs, you have until the end of business day today to lay out a plan on how we're going to get back. And the MLB players have said that the MLB doesn't care if that deal is made right now, that schedule set right now, because they only won 48 games anyways. That can wait until August almost to happen if they still want to finish by October. It's no worries by the MLB, but the MLB players are not going to agree. It's going to be an interesting situation. Will this kill baseball once and for all? Watched a 30 for 30 last night, long gone summer, or whatever the hell it was. Talking about 1998, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in the same division just went head-to-head in a barbarian baseball bat swinging alpha competition. Who can hit baseball further? It was awesome to watch. It really was. Because I didn't know that in 1994, baseball was basically dead. I didn't know that in 95, 96, and in those years that baseball was basically donezo. I had no idea that Mark McGwire won a World Series with the Oakland Athletics. I had no clue him and Jose Canseco were teammates at one point. Oh, yeah. I didn't know anything about this Southern California guy who ended up going to St. Louis, which everybody thought was only going to be for a one-year run. He starts out 2 for 28, gets a standing ovation by the Cardinals fans. Then he starts hitting dinger, 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 dinger. And in 1997, he almost had the home run record. And going into that 98 year, the infamous year with Sammy Sosa, it was expected for him to potentially break the home run record. I had no idea. I was 9 years old at the time. I didn't know that they thought this redheaded guy out in St. Louis who once had a great mullet was going to break this record that had been held for a long, long time. And then Sammy Sosa, Chicago Cubs, comes out of nowhere and starts swinging the bat over there in Wrigleyville. I mean, learning about that last night was really cool. Did I think the documentary kind of stunk? Yeah, I mean, documentaries are supposed to dive into things, you know. Documentaries are supposed to give you a little bit of information that you don't have. And I guess they gave me a little bit of that. But boy, it wasn't until the very end that they talked about chemistry, and they put that all on Barry Bonds' bat, which is very interesting. The thing I wrote down in my notes section last night while writing it, because, you know, as a vitamin user, sometimes you have great thoughts and you kind of let them slip away. But Mark McGwire, there was a couple things I thought about there. When Tom Brady speaks, listening to him talk about that Atlanta Falcons 28-3 game and how he reframed his mindset is what he said. He had to reframe it in his mind for what it was. And that's anytime you can listen to somebody that's great, talk about them doing something great, no matter who it is, you should listen. Just because there might be a little bit of thing. Mark McGwire talking about what was going through his head when he was stepping up for that 60-second home run and how the place was deafening and he had that bat on his shoulder and they were like, what did you hear? He was like, it's just my own thoughts, basically. Mark McGwire's just in his own head talking to himself that entire time and how he tries to like that type of stuff is very fascinating to me because the ability to turn off the entire outside noise and focus in on something is ability that not a lot of people have. That is an ability that the greats have. That is a reason why if you're hungover or food poisoned or have the flu, you can check into a game 6 because you have this ability to turn off all the external BS and focus in on what matters. Just like when Kobe was going through what he was going through, he had some of his best basketball. When you talk about Brett Favre, his dad passed away the night before, he was able to have some of his best football because the ability to turn off what's going on outside and focus in is a trait and a talent that not a lot of people have. So listen to Mark McGwire talk about what was going through his mind and how he was a pitcher at one point. I didn't know that. And then he said it was kind of hard for him to come to grips with the fact that he was a home run hitter. Like he said that in baseball, that's not a really good thing to be known as a home run hitter because I guess it makes you one trick pony. I'll tell you what it made you, Mark. Rich. I wouldn't mind being a home run hitter if that was the case. But there was a conversation where he was talking about the testing. And he said that they never tested back in the day. There was no regulations. So that makes me ask you this question. I was 9 years old, and I'm not old enough to have this thought back then. I just assumed like, oh, yeah, well, they're taking all the juice. Just let them go hit home runs. It's a lot more fun. I mean, those stadiums were packed out from east to west. Come see the big baseball whacker guy that's what it was. They were selling out. It was the number one conversation. The fact that Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire liked each other too. Sammy Sosa obviously said it could have been Griffey, but God picked me to be the guy, whatever it is. And the way Sammy Sosa's handled it, being in second place basically to Mark McGwire whenever they were tied at 65 with like 3 games left. Sammy Sosa saying, I tell people, yeah, Mark might have beat me, but to get to Mark, you got to get through me first. Like that was a great way to look at the entire thing. If you're Mark McGwire, though, and you're looking around, and everybody around you is taking stuff, basically. Not everybody. I assume there are some people who didn't, and congratulations to them to have the moral fortitude to say no. But if you're Mark McGwire and you're looking around and you see everybody taking stuff and you start taking stuff and you start selling out stadiums everywhere and you put this sport that you love, which he said has been a part of his life, his entire life, he's still giving back, and you put this sport on the map by doing it, it'd be very hard to be like, you know what? I just made the wrong decision for putting all these steroids in my body, especially if they're not testing for it. There's no regulations. There was a voluntary test, I guess, that came out and 106 players ended up on it. Who would do that, by the way, if you're on stuff? I guess guys that don't care if you get caught because that's how lackadaisical it was. It was like, yeah, you can take stuff, you do whatever you got to do. That was when baseball was at its finest. And then whenever the voluntary test came out and then the Balco stuff came out, and it just kind of boom, 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 all compounding on top of each other. But it's hard for me to really... Now, granted, you can think Mark McGwire is unlikable, which I assume a lot of people thought that after last night's and going into the thing, they probably thought he was unlikable. And you can think Sammy Sosa is an interesting guy, which I think a lot of people thought going into last night, and it kind of solidified it or whatever. But I think whenever you think about it from being a human standpoint, in the no testing of something, I don't want to say if you don't test for something, you promote it. But it did feel as if you're not having regulations on something and it's making your game better. The MLB was probably like, yeah, you guys do whatever you need to. Here's some clean needles, just like they give out down at the meth places, by the way. Here you go. Go ahead and do it. Yep, we're selling out stadiums. We know it. Yep, Sports Illustrated's covering us for the first time. Here you go. Just 4 years ago, we weren't even going to be a league. Don't take it, but here you go. Like, that's what I think it was like. And I guess I can't blame Mark and Sammy Sosa for taking advantage of the world that they were in at that point. Although you would hope that they would be able to say, nope, to the dope. But at some point, when there's that much money on the line and it's engulfing your entire, it'd be hard to say, that'd be something that would be hard to say no to, I assume.
Yeah, and those times were the absolute best because you'd be watching regular TV or a game and they would cut in with every single Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa at bat. It was
5,000 people were at batting practices for him going around the country. And he would put on a show during batting practice. How about a 60-second home run just being a line drive right out? Shortest home run he hit during his entire stint. And then his kid comes jogging out and says, what's up? What's up, Zito?
How about the kid, was it field worker that grabbed the ball and gave it back to him?
The equipment, Mr. McGwire, I do believe, he said he beat his brother to the ball because his brother was little.
Yeah, he's a fat dude. You couldn't make it there.
There was a guy who caught his 70th home run. There's a story going around. I don't know if it's accurate. They wanted the ball back and an autograph, and he said he'd like to meet Mark McGwire. And I guess Mark McGwire said, no, that's not a part of it. That guy sold it for like $3 million to
Smart
old buddy or whatever that was part of that
Scott
thing.
McFarland.
Yeah, so that guy, if you're just sitting in, by the way, if you're sitting in the outfield during one of these McGwire runs, you're potentially catching a lottery ticket.
Yes.
That's why I took my fishing net into this. That's why you got to take your fishing net in there.
It's a funny thought, too, because like we were watching yesterday, and like the nosebleeds were getting those balls sometimes.
Well, and the rivers.
Yeah.
There was a video of him hitting it over the Busch Light sign, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was hitting moon
Monster.
shots.
Oh, yeah.
He was hitting moon. He was absolutely yoked. So was Sammy Sosa. And I think everybody knew it. Now, granted, I guess if everybody was taking, you'd be like, yeah, that's what a normal baseball player looks like. But now in 2020, looking at that video, you look at Mark McGwire, you're like, oh, that guy's eating all the steroids there. Like, and then you look at the person, by the way, that was maybe playing first base that he was dapping up running by. You're like, that guy looks like he's probably on some. You're telling me that guy's hips are like this, and then his ass and his waist go out like. I don't know if that's a natural Stairmaster move or if that guy's on. I didn't know that it was literally like a don't ask, don't tell situation in the MLB. I thought it was like they were getting around the test. I thought they were potentially putting the Visine bottle in between the thighs and doing the whole thing. It was just like the MLB was like, well, this is better than we've ever played baseball. Just go ahead and put the big barbarian baseball whacker guys in the box.
Well, and to your point, too, like that's what they said. Like the media definitely knew, and they were fine with it then. And then when things started to turn, they immediately vilified these guys. But they showed it last night, too. Like I remember seeing those post-game press conferences, and he'd have that bottle of Andro just sitting in his locker. Like wasn't trying to hide it at all or anything. And I also thought it was hilarious. They showed Barry Bonds, like in one of his like earlier years with the Giants, and he was so tiny then. And then they flash back later to when he broke the record, and his head is like 10 times as big as it was earlier.
That's like the classic Pirates when he was with the Pirates first when he was at his end. What were you going to say, Zito? Something about Sammy, I assume? Because I'll tell you what, if I'm a Cubs fan, not only did I run that guy that had the headphones on, that Bartman, you run him out of town. Now you're running
deserved it.
Sammy Sosa out of town as well. These Cubs fans just aren't thankful for anything.
No, the Ricketts will forgive him sooner than later, but
why did they not?
I think it was more the cork bat than anything.
No, they wanted him to make a statement on steroids and like admit that he was using them. And he's
the
like,
Cubs did?
Yeah.
And he said that his name was a part of 106. Why you ask me? That's what he said, I believe.
Who reads the New York Times anyways, you know?
Well, nowadays it doesn't matter who it is.
Exactly.
I mean, there's like, it depends. I don't know which production or publication is a real one, in which all I know for sure is that The Onion is not.
yeah, satire.
That's the one.
Okay, that's the only one I know that The Onion is not. If it comes from anybody else, I have no idea who's this coming from. Because on the internet nowadays, I mean, you get McCocknered by newspapers at this point. I mean, there is a chance you could get, anybody can get it on the internet nowadays. I don't know who's who, but the reason why we're asking you, Sammy, is because we get that there was 105 other names on that list that were on volunteer. But you see, this documentary is about you and Mark McGwire. Exactly. So that is why we are asking you directly. Like that, the producer asking him and then him like giggling and saying, I'm happy, I don't want to talk about it. And then the producer is like, yeah, but you did not answer that. Yeah, but you, Sammy. He's like, why you ask me? I don't know.
Great deflection.
Like, you're a part of the documentary. If I'm Sammy Sosa, though, and if I'm Mark McGwire, at this point, I'm saying everybody that was anybody was taking it. The MLB knew we were taking it. They didn't care. Nobody cared. There was just the world we were in. If you want to put an asterisk next to it, fine. Put an asterisk next to it. Because, by the way, the pitchers might have been taking stuff, too.
Definitely
so let's assume that those pitchers, what they would have been able to put, we would like their asterisks as well. Put the asterisk next to it and say, hey, big barbarian baseball whacker guys were on steroids, but also hitting from big barbarian pitcher steroid baseball guys as well.
Trevor Bauer had a really good point, too, on Twitter. He said, like, the Hall of Fame is like an enshrinement of the history of baseball, and this was a massive part of baseball history. So, like, these guys should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's a joke that they're leaving him out.
By the way, Trevor Bauer, power hour outage, he said 95% to 100%. He thought baseball was going to come back. I wonder how he feels now, especially with the fact that the MLB controls completely the length of the schedule. What up, Nick?
You know what I learned last night that I thought was interesting was I didn't know Roger Maris was like vilified like that among baseball people. If you go back, I guess there's a really good documentary called 61.
It's a movie, but
on HBO about his life.
Which guy's this?
Roger Maris was the guy who broke Babe Ruth's home run record, and people did not want him to break it. And when he did, they put an asterisk on it because it was a longer season by a couple of games, a handful of games, and they basically said this isn't the real home run record. You got more games to play. You don't matter.
The NFL should get ahead of this because this is going to happen with the NFL with the 17-game season, from 16-game season to NFL or 17-game season. There's going to be, just like I would assume there's a lot of OGs in the football world that are upset about their numbers getting passed because rules are changing for the game to become a little bit more pass-friendly for wide receivers, let alone you add on 17, another game. And I just think that the NFL should get ahead of this and say, hey, this part of history is going to be known as a 16-game season in the Hall of Fame. We will judge everybody through this series through this era to this era, and then 17-game season, bang, a whole new era begins, even though things like they're going to have to get ahead of that because there's always going to be asterisks next to everything. That's why the COVID championships, I hope, get to go on because that asterisk will be one that we'll talk about forever. We'll say, hey, remember when the Pittsburgh Penguins came out of quarantine? Sidney Crosby was skating better than anybody, won the COVID Cup over there in Las Vegas and probably Columbus because Canadian government wants to lock you down to go up there because the yodelly of the coronavirus cases. There was some thread that somebody sent to me this weekend because I asked the question, like, how many people have passed away by COVID? I think that's a number we should look into because if the cases continue to rise, that means we're probably testing and finding out that more people have it, which is good. Just like what happened whenever the flu came through. And I asked Dr. Myron Roll, I say, Dr. Myron Roll, is coronavirus just going to become something like the flu where it just becomes a part of our life now? And he said he thinks so. I don't think he gave me a definite. I don't think doctors deal with that type of stuff. But he says he thinks that's probably what it's going to be like. So if the COVID-19 cases continue to rise, but we're able to handle it, we have a roadmap. He said that there's a doc that you can actually put at the Harvard Medical at the hospital. It tells you exactly how it all goes. We know how to handle it now at this point. There was a thread this weekend that was talking about all the side effects of if you have COVID-19, where your blood potentially gets thicker, this, all this other stuff. That one kind of scared me a little bit. Yeah. I was reading the thread, and I was like, as soon as I was done with it, I was like, oh, so we're all dead. So we're all dead. Especially whenever we got people in our office
exactly.
that are getting in party buses packed to the gills as tight as they can for a Sweet 16 birthday party.
Stay away from that drunk.
Sneezing on everyone's faces.
Unbelievable.
We got to get to a break. Thanks, Mitt.
Appreciate it, Mitt.
Thanks, Mitt.
Get the hell out.
Hope you had fun, Mitt. Why don't you go kiss Tim McAfee upstairs?
Jeez, Mitt.
16 minutes after the hour. We're back on the other side. Mark Schlereth joins us in 23 and a half minutes. Also, Edge and Randy Orton last night at Backlash. Our guy Drew McIntyre retained, by the way. Won.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Congrats to him. McAfee and Hawk bump. But Edge and Randy Orton in the greatest wrestling match ever is what it was billed as. Beautiful. We reacted out on the other side. Not easy to build up or live up to the hype that thing was. They did an incredible job, and it's trending on Google, so we should talk about it. 17 minutes after the hour, this is the Pat McAfee Show. Those plane rides home from an away game, an away victory, are some of the best times I've ever had in my entire life. And it's dudes at 35,000 feet with a terrible sound system because you have you have somebody's cell phone going into that over the plane. And it was just like it was like real happiness for a lot of people on that team. I don't think they experienced a lot of real happiness because of how focused they were on their jobs. There were a lot of older guys. So, like, their only moments of happiness, I think, were those flights home. like after a big win, like genuine happiness. Their entire life was dedicated to football. So all week, all they were thinking about was the game. And then that trip home, that like 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was like a moment for them just to completely like relax and not worry about next week or the past week, their family, nothing. We're at 35,000 feet, nobody else around us except for us. That is a real moment that I don't think a lot of people know about or appreciate, is the flights home from away victories are incredible. Absolutely incredible. Those are good times, man. Really good times. You got people singing. My favorite story is of an offensive lineman, and I won't say his name, but he was asked to sing, right? So if a rookie's asked to sing, like, you got to go sing. So he grabbed the microphone, and he didn't know that the owner's daughter just so happened to be on the team's plane, sitting up in the very front or in the very back. So they kind of have it off. So he kind of got comfortable in his current surrounding and didn't know about the entire surroundings. And he grabbed that thing, and he was not expected to sing the song. I fornicated 2 bad ladies at the same damn time. At the same damn time. At the same damn. And then he started feeling it because a lot of people were like, okay, yeah. Big white guy. Massive white guy. Nobody thought he was going to sing this song. So everybody starts like gassing him up. You know, he's like, I fornicated 2. He starts yelling into this thing. And then all of a sudden you see a little assistant from the front come waltzing back the aisle and grabbing the phone out of his hand. And he's like, what? Like yelling at him while the thing's still on. So now the entire plane hears him yelling at this assistant. And he like puts the phone down, and we're all like, oh no, like no fun. All right. They're like, Carly Ursay's on this plane. We're like, oh. Everybody just puts their headphones on, sits right back down. Just an hour and a half of silence. That kid thought he was getting cut immediately off the plane. And he did. And he did. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. Big movie review show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
King of Staten Island. I did a thorough review of it earlier in the show. If you missed that, go ahead and check it out on the internet somewhere. Stern but fair.
Stern but fair.
As always.
Hey, cool.
Stern but fair.
Hey, cool glasses, man.
Hey, thanks, Stiggs. Your face looks stupid without them. Oh, cool glasses, dude.
Thanks,
cool glasses, guys.
For everybody that sent T's and P's to my dog Val, by the way, I appreciate the hell out of it. Last week, my fiance and I learned that our dog Valerie, who is half pit bull, half Shar-Pei, 100% best dog on earth, had cancer. She had a bump on the back of her head that we had felt, and we're like, oh, this is a little weird. Sent her into the vet. We found out she had cancer in there. They told us that there's a surgery they could do where they would take that out and then a little bit more to see if they can get in a little bit deeper. They told us that the next time we could get in there because of the quarantine and people not being able was going to be like 2 weeks from when it happened. So I was like, okay, cool. I wish we could hurry up that surgery, but I guess 2 weeks from now we'll kind of do this whole thing. Got a heads up the night before Friday. Thursday night we got a call that basically said, hey, there's an opening for a surgery. Do you guys want this? We said yes. We had to kind of like, I mean, at Thursday night, whenever I think she's like 7 years old, 7 years old. Whenever that night before, though, we were just cuddling in bed, me, Sam, and Valerie. And I was just, Sam was obviously she watched every Disney movie growing up. I did not. She did. So she was a bit of an emotional wreck to hear that her first pet had cancer and that she was having surgery the next morning, and it was near her head. So there was a lot of, I assume, fear from Sam. So I had to be, the strong force in there. Like, hey, this is good. We're making the right decision. But when Sam fell asleep and it was just me and Val on Thursday night, I was looking at her just crying like, hey, you have to come back tomorrow. You hear me? Like, when you go to the vet tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m., you're going to go into a 3-hour surgery, and then you're going to come out the other side of that. And I don't need any BS from you, okay, Val? I need you back here on Friday because, yes, obviously your mom will be heartbroken, but so will I. And I don't know how much I'll be. That was a real moment where I had to look at her and think, like, there's a chance that this dog, this is the first dog that I've ever really, truly had a feeling with. Like, this is the first dog. There was a time early in my relationship with Sam where we almost broke up, and Sam and I were almost about to break up, and I was done with the conversation with Sam. We had a civilized conversation, and I was like, I just think this is how it has to go. And I looked over, and Val was sitting there, and I looked at her, and I started bawling my eyes out, and I was like, well, I guess I'm breaking up with Val too. And it was a real moment. Now, granted, Sam and we were both being a little bit over dramatic, but that was the first time where I was like, well, if I break up, I have to have this in my life. And that was like the first time in my life I've ever felt that towards an animal, where I was like, oh, I need this dog in my life. So Thursday night going into Friday's show, doing the show, I was just trying to compartmentalize it so much in the back. Like, hey, what could potentially be happening? 3-hour surgery, comes out of the other side. She has like a 6-inch incision on the back of her head. They have like 10 to 12 stitches on there. She has one of those big ass cones on her head. I mean, it was a wild weekend, but she was like more spunky and fresh than she's been in probably the last like 6 months. I always thought it was because she hated Chuck as much as I do, which is the other dog. I think that was potentially draining her energy though, and stuff like that. So Val was all the way back. She had to go back to the vet today because I think she punctured one of her stitches out, which is going to be a problem because she's like a tomboy dog. I don't know how we're going to do it. And if somebody with a bigger brain than me, the cone, we're in 2020. There has to be a better option. They have like this inflatable air thing you can put on there, but I don't know if Val's neck, because of all of her wrinkles, is good for it, and plus with the stitches on. There has to be a better alternative than the cone, but anybody that sent positive wishes to me on social media, I appreciate it, because I'm going to be honest, I'm mostly a hard ass, okay? I'm mostly, just a tough mother, I'm joking. I'm not. But I was struggling. I was struggling mightily on Friday whenever that whole surgery was happening. I'm very, very happy we're on the other side. We're not out of the woods yet. The tumor's getting sent to get tested. Her body, they took a scan of her. That's getting tested to see if there's any more. But, boy, it feels good to be on the other side of that. She has to get her stitches fixed, though, because she can't just chill. Like, we've been trying to tell her to chill. We even built, like, this little glass cage for her to live in.
Yeah, that looked nice.
Very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what she does? She takes the cone and she breaks the door open. She uses the cone as a weapon. So she learns that the cone sits on her shoulder. So if she hits it straight on, like, it's a lot more force with this cone as opposed to her using her head. So she's been blowing in our bedroom door because we put her in that thing. She'll bust through the door of that, and then at like 5:30, 6 a.m., all of a sudden all we hear is like this plastic thing just crashing into our door. And then she hops up on the bed with the cone. She'll hit me and Sam with it, and then she'll lay down in the middle. It's like, you are not supposed to be here. Like, you're not even supposed to jump right now. Like, I don't even know, what are we supposed to do? Just lock her in a padded room? I have no idea what we're supposed to do. Stop. But she's currently at the vet getting her stitch back up. And I would assume the veterinarian is yelling at Sam for not keeping her locked down enough. But it sounds a lot easier than it actually is, Doc. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you want to do to us.
You guys have to hang out with Val all weekend? You get out? Get anything good? Or?
So we hung out with Val, and then Sunday we went and got brunch. We did a brunch because things are starting to open back up. Oh, great question, actually. Happy we brought this up. So Sunday we go and do a brunch with Sam's, what's that thing called? The highest in the...
Maid of honor.
There it is. The highest in the bridal party. The president, the highest of the bridal party. Her maid of honor asked her to go to brunch with her husband, who's a retired James Bond in the military. Good guy. So we go do brunch there. We're sitting at this real, it's like a foodie place. I would have never went there in a million years, but the food was good. You know what I mean? I would have never. I looked at the menu when I was told where we were headed. I did a scroll. Okay, I'm going to hate everything. I don't like the fancy dancy food. Just give me chicken nuggets, give me eggs, give me American cheese. This place doesn't have American cheese. Okay?
What? Bacon?
No. Yeah, they have bacon. They have bacon, but there's no American cheese. Very nice place. Very, very nice place. Good brunch, obviously. So we go. I order eggs. So eggs and bacon is what I order in a fruit cup. Can't mess it up. And they didn't. It was very good. As it comes out, guy comes out in full chef costume.
Ooh.
Okay? So I'm like, oh, the chef is delivering the food. Maybe this is one of those hoity-toity foodie places. That's what happens. The chef comes out and says, do you like it? No. Spits on it. No. Turns out, dude's name was Thomas. Okay? Sous Chef Thomas. He said, I listen to your show every single day that I cook, and I actually make these while listening to your show. Oh. He had this cinnamon roll that was like the size of half a loaf of bread, okay? And he says, this is from me to you and the boys just for saying thank you because you guys are the ones that get me through this every morning. I get to watch you work. I hope you get a chance to taste how I work or something like that. And I was like, Thomas, my guy, thank you so much. I'm on a diet, but somebody will eat this. He said, I know you're on a diet. I know you've been battling, but if you don't take a bite of this, basically, I will be disappointed. And I was like, okay, thank you so much. I'm a big cinnamon roll guy to begin with. Mm-hmm. So Thomas leaves. Super good guy, super gentleman. I eat the eggs. I eat the bacon. There's no American cheese. Didn't need it. Had good flavor. Sausage. I did the fruit cup. Everybody's enjoying their meal. And then this cinnamon thing's just staring at me the whole time. Best cinnamon roll I've ever had in my entire life.
Nice.
Really? Took one bite. Guess what happened?
Finished the whole thing.
2 bites. 3 bites.
What?
4 bites.
What?
5 bites.
What?
6 bites.
What?
Get this away from me. I'm becoming a fat ass again.
Thomas.
So shout out to Sous Chef Thomas for trying to make me fat again. But your food was unbelievable. And thanks to all the people that listen to us while they're working or whatever you're doing. There's no reason to listen to the show. The fact that you do, we can't thank you enough. Let's get to our guy Warwick down there in Australia. Big weekend for the AFL. If you haven't been keeping up with this show, know that this ball right here, the Sharon has ignited a fanhood in myself that makes me feel like a child. I'm discovering a sport, which is Aussie Rules football, and the AFL League has been magnetic to watch. Listen, they are not paying me. Should they be? Yes. The AFL should be paying us for talking about the AFL. I'm just genuinely happy that as a sports fan, there is a sport that's currently happening in the morning and at night down under that is magnificent. I mean, it is a great sport, great game, great league. They just inked a deal with ESPN. I assume you're going to get a chance to see more and more of it. Here's Warwick in Australia to talk about the AFL this past weekend. Warwick, what's going on? Are the teams rusty or the teams good? Is this what we should expect more of? What happened this weekend?
Yeah, I thought the teams as a whole played really well. I thought that first game was just a real, and nobody saw that coming. That first game was just really weird, really low scoring. But some of the rest of the games of the round were absolutely electric. The Sydney-Essendon one, we got the pick right, we got the tip right. We picked Essendon, they got the win, and that was
what I'm talking about.
Attaboy, Warwick, making us money, unlike that stooge Chris from Miami. Sorry, go ahead.
I think one thing I'd like to share, maybe something for all you guys who are talking about the MLB, you guys are talking about the salary cap and stuff like that. One thing to know about the AFL is that all of the players in the entire league, about 800 players, the amount of money that's split between them is about 240 million Australian, which if you convert it to Americans, about 170 million, which is less than one NFL team. So these 800 guys getting paid less than 53 NFL players, and they're going out there, they've taken a 50% pay cut to make sure that the league's happening at the moment. So, you know, MLB, PA, you guys got to do what you got to do for your guys. But if you're frustrated with those guys not wanting to play, get onto the AFL, because the guys who are playing AFL love playing footy.
That's right. Warwick, appreciate that. Great. Now, I could get into an entire conversation about how the reason why it is the way it is because of the amount of money that the league draws in. But the fact, though, that they all took a 50% pay cut. Here's something. The AFL, too, no players' names on the back of the jersey. It's like It's an old school feel when you're watching that game, and it's captivating. Whenever you start seeing a ball fly around, and they're taking a 50% pay cut. I did not know that. The AFL, though, for good reason, knew that if the world got a chance to see our sport for the first time for real in its 124-year existence, by the way, 124 years the AFL's been around, people will love it, and I'll tell you what, they're 100% right. The AFL might have to carry us through until at least the end of July. Now, granted, the MLS will be back, which we will all tune in for. Oh, yeah. But the end of July is when everything else is supposed to come back, and the AFL is a perfect. Now, I got a lot of people telling me, like, National Rugby League in New Zealand's playing in front of 50,000 people because there's 0 coronavirus cases in New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. Congratulations, getting coronavirus the hell out of town and out of the island. Shout out to the Flight of the Conchords. Respect that. I do miss watching something that has 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 people in the stands, but that sport of rugby is so boring. I thought Aussie rules football was rugby. It's why I never watched it. It's a very different sport. So I respect what rugby's doing. I respect that they're back in New Zealand. I like the National Rugby League happening in Australia. But please, don't be trying to come up into my Aussie rules football love right now, because it's two very different sports.
Not up in here.
Not up in here.
We were talking about how tiring it looks. And I found this out on Sunday that the games right now are 16 minutes less than the normal games because of the quarantine rules.
Yeah, well, that was what happened on that the first game Thursday morning. Everybody from Australia was saying, like, it's a shortened quarters, it's less scoring, they're coming out, they're rusty and everything. So I guess it only gets longer with more points. And I like that Europe, like soccer, 90 minutes. Make this thing last forever. We're not going to let TV scheduling dictate how long this game is. For them, it's the same thing. It's like 100 minutes or something like that. It's 80 minutes or whatever it is. They don't care about TV scheduling at all. We'll just do this. This is how our game. I love the AFL. Absolutely love the AFL. Let's go to Alex in Indiana. Alex, what's going on, bub?
What's going on, boss?
Just hanging out.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, man?
Not too shabby. Just getting ready to go work for the rest of the day.
What do you do?
Hey, so I work here at a golf course in Indiana.
Perfect. Oh, good answer.
And was going to see if you know anything about betting with the PGA.
Well, I do know that I bet on Phil Mickelson to win it all this weekend strictly because I knew it was a shorter course, so I thought that his hands might come into play a little bit. Turns out Phil Mickelson wasn't even in the conversation the entire time. I thought Justin Thomas might make a run because for the first time in a long time, it felt like the humans were on his side because of his performance on the course during the matchup or the challenge or whatever the hell it's called. But aside from that, I had no idea Mr. Berger was the hottest guy in golf. I had no clue he was going to hold up. I did kind of know that Jordan Spieth was potentially going to fall apart just because that had happened in the past, but I think Jordan has learned a lot about himself. Rory didn't know what to expect. So aside from that, I don't know enough other than I bet on some people and they lost.
Yeah, I did the same thing, throwing some money around and did end up making a few bucks back there.
Congrats.
But Tiger is going to be playing in the Memorial. Little inside scoop there. First tournament back with players. Or with
fans.
I think we knew that, right?
Yeah.
I think that news already came out. I like that Alex broke the news. I like that he works at a golf course. You guys went golfing this weekend. How was the game?
Pretty well, actually.
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Nice little course. A lot of short par fours, which is always nice.
That is very nice.
Very nice.
Especially for you guys that don't use the driver off the tee box.
What are you talking about?
Come on, Nick. You know you don't use the driver.
Oh, because I used the 6-iron one time.
Yeah, it was kind of soft.
Ask these boys about how I was driving the ball this weekend.
How are you driving the ball this weekend?
Right to left, but it was going a good bit distance out there.
He was.
I like the golf is back. I enjoyed that perfect nap.
Oh,
it literally is just the perfect napping sport. Let's get to a break. 36 minutes after the hour. On the other side, Mark Schlereth joins us to talk about everything happening in his life. That Jerry Judy video that came out this weekend. Hey, he's going to be good. He's going to be good at football.
They are very young and talented offense.
And Drew Lock has that swag. I feel like he can handle a massive moment if it comes. Talk Mark Schlereth about the Broncos, football, what the old whites can do to hopefully make our society and our country a little bit better. 37 minutes after the hour, we'll be back. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
He's the bat guy, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't really do the gloves.
Oh, the Pat McAfee show. Dude, I love Pat. I will definitely come on that show. 100%. What a guy.
Just scare me. I just jump in a box.
Yeah. Depending on what happens with season, if we go back or we don't, let's get on the show. I'm down. I'm definitely down to get on there with him. I love him. What I need to do is get out there and.
That I love him. Was he talking about me?
Oh yeah.
Hey, Bryce, I love you too, man. I think I've even talked about your incredible hair flip, and your dingers. I'm a big Bryce Harper guy. You think he'll come on the show? Because those are the things that happen in these Twitch streams, though. Old producer Zeke shows up in his Twitch stream, starts saying, hey, excuse me, Mr. Harper. My name is Jose Perez, affectionately known as Zito. I was wondering if you wanted to come on Pat McAfee show. Zito, shout out to you, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Picking up a booking role for this show, Zito.
Big deal.
Appreciate you doing that. If we get Bryce Harper on the show, big show. That'd be a big show. We're a big baseball show to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll talk to him about being a lefty at the plate. You know what I mean? Because that's what he and I shared. Him and his dad doing that thing in Washington at the Home Run Derby. Big fan of that operation. Will Bryce Harper come on the show? Will Bryce Harper come on the show?
Ball's in his court.
But he's scared to dribble it out. I'm afraid. Why am I afraid? Why am I? Every once in a while, Eminem will come on my Pandora station I listen to. Whew. He used to have it. He used to have it. Every once in a while, a banger will come on. I'm like, okay, shout out Eminem. And then something new comes on. And it's just the same thing, just a little bit different. All right. We got like another 2 minutes before Mark Schlereth joins us. Pumped to talk to him. Will Bryce Harper come on this show?
Let's go.
I sure hope so. Philadelphia Philly, by the way. That's how I know him.
Oh, yeah. His beard to hair is just absolutely perfect.
Next level. And the hair flip is... Clay Matthews had a good athletic hair flip. His one went to another level. Well, ask Trevor Bauer what he thinks of him, too. Big baseball show. And by the way, Schlereth's kid is in, I believe, he was throwing 94-95, I saw the other day.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was with the Tigers, and I believe he was with the Pirates for a little bit, too.
Schlereth's good.
All right, we're back on the other side with Mark Schlereth. By the way, shout out Stink. What up? Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. Joining us now is a three-time Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and a member of the Broncos' 50th anniversary team. His body has incurred 29 surgeries. Ladies and gentlemen, Stink Mark Schlereth!
Attaboy, Mark!
Yeah, thank you. I love that's an absolutely unbelievable introduction there. Thank you, Pat.
Well, it was your life. I just read back to that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Hey, incredible life that you've lived. Hey,
good job, Mark. Great work.
I just saw a tweet that you put out about a headline being a bit misleading, where it was alleged that you said that the Jerry Judy hype should be dumped a little bit of cold water on it. You said that the headline was misleading. Before listening to it, I assume that you're saying it's not easy to become a rookie wide receiver in the NFL and have success. But with the videos that you're seeing from his workouts and him getting after it during this quarantine as a young guy and what he did in college, and with Drew Lock potentially being a guy that has the swagger and confidence to handle this type of stuff, what are you expecting from the Broncos offense and Jerry Judy in particular this year?
Well, I mean, Jerry Judy's an unbelievable player. There's no question about it. And like you said, I mean, his body of work throughout his collegiate career has been exceptional. So, and you see the videos. I mean, his fluidity of movement and his movement skills are unreal. There is a big transition going from college football to the professional ranks. And, one of the things I always try to tell the Denver fans, because they get really excited, and everybody talks about, well, you got to match the speed of the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, hey, good luck with that, right? They have continuity, and they have, Travis Kelce, and they've got, listen, Patrick Mahomes is a unicorn. That guy takes a dump. It's rainbow sherbet. Like, you could sell it on the street corner and make a fortune. So, like, he's that good. And they've got Tyreek Hill, and they've got Hardman. They've got so many great players, and they're in a system that they've been doing with Andy Reid forever. So they've got continuity. I look at the Broncos, and you've got a guy like Drew Lock, who was really good his rookie year from the standpoint of, he definitely has arm talent and all that. But I thought third downs, and I thought just maturity level, and I thought some of the things he did were exceptional. But now you have two rookie wide receivers that you're counting on, right? You've got a plethora of your tight end's a second-year player. You got another rookie tight end that you drafted. You've got Cortland Sutton, who's the veteran there, is only going into his third season. He was raw when he came out of college. You've got an offensive line that's got issues that's going to be anchored by a rookie center. Like, there's a lot, and you've got a new offensive coordinator in Pat Shurmur that, that has consistently been the bottom third of the league as far as sacks given up his offenses are. They're primarily a wide receiver set. And, you've got a left tackle that leads the league in holding in every year. So all I say is, hey, guys, before we put them in the Super Bowl, let's actually let them play a little bit of football and see what they become. So, if you want to call that throwing cold water on it, sure. I just like to give you a little bit, a dose of reality, but before you buy Super Bowl tickets. That's all.
Well, I will say, the people that say, well, I'm realistic and reality, a lot of people say they're a bit pessimistic, but it does sound like there are some problems that are going to potentially pop up for this Denver Broncos team that I didn't know about, I didn't hear about. So I assume what you're saying is, hey, they're going to be a young squad, but it's going to take a couple years to get there. That's just the nature of the beast that is the NFL, and that's why continuity is so big for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is, by the way, the Chiefs, they bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They somehow still have Tyreek Hill on that team. In the AFC, it very much looks like that Chiefs team for the next, 5 years is going to have a potential stranglehold on the whole thing, and the Broncos just have to sit there and play them twice a year.
There's no question. I think the other thing that nobody gives credit to, other than maybe me and smart people like you, is when you watch the Kansas City Chiefs, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's unreal how often they get 4 or 5 guys out. I mean, they constantly do it. They play what we call 5-0 protection, meaning our 5 got your 5, let's roll. Like, this is street ball. And because they have two bookend offensive tackles in Eric Fisher, who's an unbelievable athlete, Mitchell Schwartz, who's an absolute technician, I can't tell you how many times they just say, hey, 80% of the time probably, just watching film, they just say, hey, get all 5 guys out. And if they do break down in protection, then Patrick Mahomes, scrambles around, which is like, that's the worst thing that can happen to you as a defense, because once he starts playing street school football or schoolyard football, that's when those 70-yard touchdowns go over the top. I mean, they're a nightmare. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the class of the AFC West. And if you think you're just matching them with speed, I think you're stupid. Like that's not how. Like the teams, they've lost 8 games in the last 2 years, including the playoffs. The teams that have beaten them have ground out first downs, have eaten up time of possession, have controlled the clock, and they still win games 30-29. You know, it's 34-31. Like, you still barely beat the damn Chiefs. The Chiefs have it for 18 minutes, and they still find a way to hang 30 on your ass, you know? So, like, you're just not going to outrun them or out-athletic them. It just doesn't work that way. So you've got to be able to match them. You've got to be physically, you've got to be dominant. You've got to be able to run the ball. You've got to be able to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. And if you can't do that, you just won't beat him.
You have to keep him on the sideline, like, literally for 50 minutes. Like, maybe even more, by the way. They scored, 28 points in, I think, 3 minutes in that one quarter in the playoffs.
Right.
We're not talking about a regular-ass game. We're talking about playoffs. Playoffs! But let's pivot a little bit, because I've seen you go to work for the movement that's currently happening in America. And what I'm about to say to you is a compliment. I want you to know that. But as an older white, okay, you're an older white, yeah. I believe. You're an older white. That is a lot of who I think a lot of people that have to have these conversations and think about it, because I think, granted, you and I were very lucky to be in a locker room and get a chance to learn about a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that are kind of set in their ways, where these protests and the movement and the message is kind of being shown to them, and I don't want to say forced, but they're kind of open their eyes to it the first time. How much of a responsibility have you felt to kind of get out ahead of this and say, like, hey, listen, this is something that really has to happen? Because I think you've been doing an immaculate job. I honestly do believe that. I don't think anybody would expect you, by the way, to be a guy that you are. And I think the fact that you are, a lot of people are learning about Mark Schlereth and saying, hey, that's a guy I can get behind.
Listen, you and I were blessed to be a part of a locker room for a very long time. And one thing you start to learn is that what separates us from differences, there are far more things that connect us that connect us than there are that divide us or separate us, right?
Yep.
Skin color is we all see it, right? But when you start to invest in each other, and you start to believe in one another, and you start to really love one another, and you start to understand that we are connected, and there's very little that actually makes us different, then, one of my favorite scriptures is Paul writing to the church of Philippi. And he's writing from prison. Now, if I'm writing you from prison, I'm asking you to come bust my ass out. But Paul is writing to the church, and he's actually encouraging the church. And he says in chapter 2, verse 2, he says, make my joy complete by being like-minded, of the same love, united in spirit. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, let each of you regard one another as more important than self. Ooh. And that's the beauty of a locker room. When you're a good team, you don't care about yourself as much as you care about the guys that you play with. And when that becomes part of what you are and who you are, then it's amazing what you can do collectively as a group. It's amazing how you can put your differences aside and play for one another. And I just wish America had that experience that we've had. Now, I will say this, Pat, I've been insulated. Like, I haven't really thought about what my brothers have had to go through, because I'm so connected to them and I love them so much that I don't think about it. Like, when I looked at the kind of father and the kind of husband I wanted to be, most of the strongest role models I had were black men. It was Charles Mann, and it was Art Monk, and it was Monty Coleman, and it was Darryl Green. Man, I aspired to be those guys when it came to my family, when it came to my Christianity, when it came to everything that was about me. I aspired to be those guys. And I've been very consistent on this from day one when Colin Kaepernick started to kneel down. Like, I don't know about you, but I said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning when I went to school. And I put my hand on my heart and I said, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the United States of America. Oh, God, now I've all of a sudden forgot it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Republic
States of America,
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't say with liberty and justice for some. I said liberty and justice for all. And, you know, ultimately, I think about my own life, and I've talked to my black friends about this. Like, what I told my kids, like, I didn't tell my kids, hey, if you get pulled over by the police, you know, put your hands up and, you know, and make sure you're respectful and you know, because it could be like you could be discriminated against. I told my kids, if you get pulled over by police, I'm going to whip your ass. Like that was my commentary to my kids, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a difference. And like I said, I've been insulated, so I didn't recognize it. Somebody from NASCAR said it, and I just completely agree with it. And, you know, wish I would have said it, but I didn't. I can't remember who it was. But they said, hey, just not being a racist isn't enough. Like, we have to be out in front saying equality is important and loving each other is important. And like, I'm not afraid of that. Like, there are so many people, and change is interesting because it's not actually the change that I think once you're in it's not the change that's scary, right? It's the process of change that is scary.
Yeah.
Like, what does it do to my life? Like, when I left ESPN and went to Fox, it was the process of that change that was scary. Once I got there and started calling games and started doing studio work for them, it was awesome. But it was the process of going, I don't know what I'm getting into. That scared me. But once I got through it, it was fine. And so people are just afraid of that process, and you have to embrace it and understand that we're in this thing together. And how are we going to make America love one another and be connected to one another and get beyond our own selfishness and our own fears?
And I think the interesting thing about it, I just said we'll see you tomorrow because our radio break went through there. We're still live on YouTube, but I think what you were saying was so damn good. By the way, took us to church there for a second. Yeah. Hey, took us to church.
I can do that too.
Amen. 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 You're right, though. It's 100%. And that's why I think watching you kind of say these things was big, I think, for a lot of people, because your generation, but I don't want to say your generation, my generation, we're all kind of linked together here. And I think in the future, we'll look back and say, who are the people that were like, it's not about burying one particular race. It's about lifting up another one. And I think, you know, it's just I think we're in a very important time. So I've appreciated everything that you've been saying this entire time, because I know it's probably rather easy for you to kind of sit back and not do it. I assume you're catching a lot of heat for some of the stuff that you've been saying to people. And that guy that was spoken for NASCAR, I'm happy you didn't quote Kyle Larson, but yeah, the NASCAR said that it's not just about being against race, it's about coming out and saying it. I think we're in a time where judgment, I think, is really potentially going to take a backseat to people getting to know each other, and I hope that's the case. I honestly do. I hope so, Mark.
I do too, and I think it's a fascinating time in our country with our culture in general to really start to, you know, unselfishly understand one another, understand the issues that present us. You know, we always talk about having clarity in 2020 vision. Well, like, we're getting it right now, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a really, I mean, as sad as it is and as hurtful as some things are and as devastating, you turn on the news and it's just like, Lord have mercy, I got to turn this off. But the bottom line is we are in a position, like, this can be the catalyst for unbelievable change in our country. And we need that. And we need to be united. And so I just think it's a really cool, a very interesting time. And I hope people listen with softened hearts and really listen. You know, do you listen to respond, or do you listen to hear? Because unfortunately, a lot of us listen to respond. Like, we just can't wait to say, yeah, well, what about, you know, instead of really listening to hear, really listening to understand. I heard a comedian say, you know, like, Black Lives Matter offends you. You know, that Black Lives Matter offends you, really? Like, if your wife says, hey, honey, do you love me? And you say, oh, baby, I love all women.
Michael Shea, right?
Right? And how's that going to go over for you, right? This is, and I don't know who the comedian was that said it, but 100%, like,
all buildings matter.
We all matter, but the fact that some of us have been oppressed for 400 years, yeah, we should be lifting you up. Yeah, we should be making equality important in our lives. And I'm 100% for that, and I'm really glad that we're going through this as a country, as hard as it is. nothing that I've ever done that has been easy. Like everything that I've ever done from a success standpoint has come with sacrifice and come with some pain. And that's the way it has to work. And so I'm glad we're going through it.
I agree. And your comparison to whenever you change jobs or whatever, the transition process is always one of a lot of question marks. And once you get a little bit, but I feel like the next 5 years, 10 years, however long it's going to be, I think we are making that transition. For the first time in a long time, people are listening. And I'm happy that's the case. Before we let you go here, can't thank you enough for joining us. Your kid's throwing 94, 95 miles an hour. Is that what's happening?
My kid's old, he's 34. And we threw a Rapsado bullpen in Castle Rock, Colorado last Friday. So he was sitting 94, 95 and throwing heat. But he's getting, like the average major league curveball breaks about 15 inches. He's getting 18, 19 inches of vertical break at 6,300 feet. So he's throwing it 1,000 feet above mile high. So he's not at sea level. He'll get 23, 24 inches of vertical break. He's got one of the nastiest curveballs in baseball, and we're just trying to get him an opportunity to get back in. So
he might have it. He might have the opportunity, by the way. It sounds like a lot of players might not play, and the MLB is going to put a season out there. I want to let you know, though, tell your kid, he lets one of those hang.
If he gives up, hey, listen, man, he gives up the cement mixer, you'll go yard on that thing.
Mark, I love every conversation we have together. I really enjoy you as a human.
Well, I appreciate that. I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. Thank you so much for having me on. And thanks for tackling these difficult conversations because they're important for all of us to have them.
We have to have them, Mark. Once you have them,
Amen.
You learn more, you move on. Amen to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Schler.
Yeah!
Mark! Attaboy, Mark!
Yeah, Mark!
All right. We just powered right through that radio.
I had to.
Happens. You let him know.
Yeah, you said it.
See you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Shit. What a show. What a show. Big shout out to Mark Schler for joining us. Rick Bucher. Good conversations to be had. That AFC West, though.
Oh, man.
Fucking Chiefs just ready to go.
They are.
They got better.
Yeah.
They got better somehow. And with non-OTAs, and they got better than everybody with no OTAs because they played the longest last year, and they have the whole team back, basically. I mean, it's just...
Upgraded at running back.
That'd be a tough thing not to just hammer home is that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, but...
The Broncos' poor tackle. I mean, Lombardi and now Schlereth, every time we have someone on who talks about the Broncos, they just throw him under the bus every single time.
It is so fucking devastating when you have a guy that just gets a lot of holding calls. This is why when I pitched my way to fix football,
that's right.
I said make offensive holding just 5 yards, not 10 yards. Because it's a judgment call by the refs, which the refs are never in a good position, but holding can be called on every single play, on every single offensive lineman, unless it's somehow a stunt where an offensive lineman ends up with no work. They could potentially call it, and you could zoom in closely and be like, well, he did grab his jersey there right on the side, if you do see. But now they make it a 10-yard penalty, 1st and 20. It's fucking over. Now you're just waiting to punt. 2nd and 20. I mean, it's just, you're in a bad spot. If you got a guy that gets a little grabby, I mean, you could see as a fan base, you'd be like, this motherfucker. What number is it? Let me guess. Let me fucking guess what number it is. That poor guy.
Yeah.
He's just trying to do his job.
Stop holding.
That AFC West is going to be tough, though, for some time. They weren't able to, obviously, unload $200 million into Patrick Mahomes' pockets because they had like $24 of cap space. But when that happens... will they still be able to be as good when you dump that much money? We'll find out. 12:02, we got 58 minutes until McAfee and Hawk. Mitt's Minutes will be at the end of McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk at 1 o'clock. He'll have to recap the entire day, including what Rick Bucher told us and Mark Schler. Can't wait to see how he does, especially after that booze bus he was on, big booze bag for the Sweet 16 birthday party he was at. From all of us to all of you, we can't thank you enough for watching. You're the greatest. Make sure you subscribe. I think it's down there.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's right down there. Ring the bell. When we get to 1 million subscribers, something big. Biggest giveaway we've ever done. So we're almost there from what I've been told.
Tell your friends.
This has been the Pat McAfee Show, Monday, June 15th.